Today, we're going to talk about something intense. It's a powerful psychological moment. What happens when someone with an avoidant attachment style has a sudden, earth-shattering realization that their whole way of life, their entire defense system, was wrong? It's a completely silent, internal event, but trust me, its impact is anything but quiet.
So, what does this crash really mean? This isn't some gentle aha moment or a slow dawning of awareness. No way. This is a chaotic, violent breaking point. It's the moment the truth they've spent a lifetime running from finally smashes right through all their defenses. So let's put a name to this, right? We're calling it avoidant awareness, and I want you to think of it like an emotional earthquake. It's not just a bad day. It's an event that completely shatters everything they thought they knew about staying safe, especially when it comes to love and connection. All right, so let's get into the first stage of this whole journey, the silent crash itself. This is that initial moment when their reality gets flipped upside down and the very things they built to protect themselves suddenly start to feel like a trap. And this is the core of it, isn't it? For years, their emotional walls, that distance, that silence, that detachment, it all felt like a fortress. But in this one moment, that feeling of strength just evaporates. The fortress becomes a prison. And the worst part? They realized they were the one who locked themselves inside. So you've got this huge clash happening inside them. On one hand, you have this lifelong script playing in their head, distance keeps me safe. But then, bam, this new reality hits them like a ton of bricks. They see that what they called protection was actually a wall preventing the very thing they secretly wanted all along, real, genuine closeness. Okay, so after that initial crash, after the dust starts to settle just a little bit, something else rushes in to take its place. And that's this immense, crushing weight of guilt. The focus turns inward, and they finally start to reckon with the consequences of their behavior. And this is just a devastating shift in perspective. For so long, they saw their silence as a kind of strength, a way to stay in control. But now, they're forced to see it through their partner's eyes, and they realize, maybe for the very first time, that their silence wasn't powerful. It was rejection, and it caused a lot of pain. And we have to be clear here, this isn't just, feeling bad about something. This is a deep, soul-level reckoning. It's their own conscience finally looking back at them and acknowledging the harm they caused. Not to punish themselves, but as a necessary first step toward actually understanding. And that guilt starts to get really, really specific. It's not some abstract cloud hanging over them. Nope. It's playing mental reruns of all the texts they ignored, thinking about all the times they should have said I'm sorry but just couldn't. They start to feel the sheer exhaustion their partner must have felt. And that so-called freedom they chased, they finally see it was just loneliness in disguise, the price they paid for being afraid. So you've got the crash, then the guilt, and all of that pressure builds up until it leads to the third, and maybe the most painful phase of this whole thing. It's when the ego shatters. That armor they wore for protection, it turns out it was a cage all along. Now, when we say ego, it's super important to know we're not just talking about being arrogant or cocky. For an avoidant person, their ego is literally their armor. It's a survival suit they built out of pride and control and detachment, anything and everything to make the terrifying feeling of vulnerability seem manageable. So what happens when that armor finally cracks? Well, the floodgates just burst open. Every single feeling they've been pushing down for years, we're talking guilt, regret, longing, even love, it all comes rushing back at the exact same time, and there's just no stopping it. This is where they have to face all the stories they told themselves. That old narrative of, I'm not heartless, I'm just wounded, completely falls apart. And they're left with this raw, simple truth. My ego didn't protect me, it isolated me. Love wasn't the thing that destroyed me, my own pride was. So once the ego is out of the way, a totally new feeling starts to creep in. It's this deep, intense craving for the exact person and connection they spent their whole lives pushing away. That quiet solitude they used to call peace, now it just feels achingly empty. And what's wild is what they remember. It's not the grand gestures or the big moments. It's the small stuff. The sound of their partner's laugh, the incredible patience that person had every time they pulled away, the safety they felt just being in the same room. It's all these tiny moments of real connection that now feel like the biggest loss of all. And that's the painful twist in all of this, isn't it?
They have this terrible realization that their entire internal dictionary was wrong. What they had labeled peace was actually just emptiness. And what they had labeled strength was never strength at all. It was just fear.
So, with all this pain, all this regret, where do you go from here? Well, it can lead to the final transformative stage, the path to change. This is where all that destruction starts to become a catalyst for real growth, the beginning of finally being real. And here it is, the real turning point, the moment when the pain of being alone finally becomes even scarier than the fear of getting close to someone, when staying the same hurts more than changing. That is the moment the real work can actually begin. Now, the road forward isn't easy, but it is pretty clear. It starts with that raw realization we've been talking about. Then it moves into true accountability. No more blaming, no more excuses. After that, they have to find humility, which really just means letting go of that protective ego. And if they can do all that, they can finally start to grow and learn how to love with presence and vulnerability.
And I think this is such a powerful way to look at it. Being wrong, messing up this badly, it doesn't feel like a beginning. But it is. It's not failure. It's the absolute first step toward finally being real. So we'll leave you with this one question to think about, because it really gets to the heart of this entire journey. What's the point of protecting yourself if, in the process, you lose the very thing that made life worth protecting in the first place?